Back, Penton Young, international keynote speaker, and I am also a coach, world masters, and founder of Speaker Posse. If you're not part of the Speaker Posse Facebook group, go over to Speaker Posse, subscribe to this channel, and well, you can get more videos. You can become a world-class speaker. So today's video this is the second video of today. This is going to be all about how you can really get comfortable on stage and delivering your message, out memorize your speech. Many of you want to memorize your speech and are really challenged by so. It's not a good look. I would not recommend it. Hundreds and hundreds of stages, probably thousands. And I've done it before, and it's been an absolute train wreck anytime I've done it. So I don't recommend memorizing your speech. Professional speaker, I definitely would never memorize my speech, and I even you doing it in the beginning. Maybe if you've got a 5-minute speech, maybe like really short, or a second, 1-minute elevator pitch, maybe you memorize that, but it's less like memorizing and more, I guess it is memorizing, but you've just practiced it so many times that you're not like grappling to find what was that word I was saying. No, it just kind of flows out of you because it's who you are. It's natural, it's authentic. But again, I don't recommend memorizing your speeches, especially if you're talking 50, 30-minute, 60-minute, but how can we utilize different devices, different technology or tools? And I don't mean technology like YouTube or an iPhone. I mean like methodologies in order to really access information while you are on stage without having anything in front of you. And you have some things in front of you as well. So I'm going to give you a few tips right now. So buckle up, take some notes. And again, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and hit the bell. All right, so first thing we can do is we can use something called Mnemonic, and I can't even say the word, Mnemonic Devices. I'm gonna spell it for you, and you can just Google it. If you were to spell this, it's Mnemonic, and the definition is a device such as a pattern of letters, ideas, or associations that assists in remembering something. So just so we're on the same page, I wanted to make sure that I gave you that definition. I know there's brand new aspiring speakers watching these types of videos, and there's also professional speakers that are just looking to take it to the next level and increase their fees. So I wanted to share that with you. And there's a couple things you can do right out of the gate. One thing you can do is one type of mnemonic device, and I know I'm butchering that every time I say it. If for some reason I can't say that word, that's okay, right? It's okay. Is utilizing the first letter of key sections of your speech. So to give you, I guess, an example here, if you have a speech where the first thing you're talking about is obviously your introduction, you might just say I, because you know your introduction. You don't need like a clue to remember what the introduction is about. And then you might say something like, joke. You might have J for joke. Or if your joke is about a donkey, I don't know, for some reason, you might use the letter D. So let's say ID. So ID, okay? So that spells I'd, like I apostrophe D. And we'll see where the rest of the letters go. I'm totally making this up on the fly, but you're gonna spell out something that all you're gonna remember are those letters, right? So all you're gonna remember are those letters. And then let's say you're gonna tell a story. And let's say this is only a 15-minute speech. So you only have one story that you're going to tell. So you don't really even need to identify what kind of story that is. So it's just going to be S, okay, for story. And then you're going to have, let's say you're going to have 3 main points. And let's say your 3 main points are teaching somebody how to up-level their limiting beliefs, right? So the first one would be listen to your language. So it would be L for language. The second one would be up level your network. So it would be N. And the third one would be surround yourself with mentors. So it would be M. So L, N, M. M. And then after that, you're going to, let's say you're going to, I'm going to just shorten it here. We could have a quote. We could have more stuff. But then let's just say we're going to have a close after that. So what are we up to? Intro. D for donkey, right? Because we're going to tell a joke about a donkey. I don't know that, right? Or DS, and then LNM. LNM are our 3 tips. Listen to your language, up-level your network, and find a mentor, right? LNM, and then close for your close. So we've got IDS, LN, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that's right. IDS, LNMC. So all we need to remember is that IDS, so you might say IDS, LNMC. IDS, LNMC. Use these in different ways, however you're going to remember that. I'll remember that, ID, LNMC. And what I might also do is a little trick. You have a notepad or even a tiny piece of paper is better. One little piece of paper. You got one little piece of paper. Let's say it's even smaller than this. And what you're going to do is when you're on stage, you're going to take this piece of paper and you're going to put it up in front of the stage, right? You're going to have a little table on the right or a tall chair or something. And you're just going to always have a water bottle. I always have a water bottle or a water glass, and you're going to have that right on top of it. I like a clear water glass sometimes because you can see right through it, or a water bottle's cool as well. And anytime you forget, if you were to forget your IDS, LNMC, then you would just go over and you take a sip of water and you just look down and all you have is the first letter. And you might have the whole word as well if you're going to write it out, just to jog your memory. So all you're doing is you're remembering IDS, LNMC, IDS, LNMC. So IDS, LNMC. All I'm remembering that. Brain takes so much less capacity and resources to memorize that than it does to memorize every single word and every single paragraph of all the things that I'm going to talk about in my speech. Folks, we need to start to trust ourselves, trust our intuition, trust our experience, trust our practice time on stages. We've gotten up and we've practiced this so many times. We don't need to memorize every single word, because what happens when we do that, it's detrimental to us for a couple of reasons. The number one reason is we're then up here in our head. And that stops us from becoming world class, right? There's 3 areas, 3 legs to the stool to become world class. The first one, and there's no particular order, the first one is world class speaker principles and habits and abilities, skills, right? That's the first one. Second one is authenticity. The third one is vulnerability. And I'll do a whole nother video where I talk about these 3. If we're in our head and we're just relying on our skills and we're memorizing things, we're up here and we're not down here in our heart, right? And what that does is it eliminates the authenticity and vulnerability, or it greatly restrains them or restricts them. And we're not connected, right? And becoming world class is, what that means is being 100% committed to identifying what is blocking, what is standing between you and your audience. What is standing between you and your audience, and 1,000% connected to your, because we cannot impact a room. We can't impact an audience if we have things that are standing between us. And when we memorize things, it stands between us and the audience. So one simple trick is to start to memorize mnemonic devices. And I'm going to give you one other badass tool in 1 second. But the first one is just the first letter of each key part of your speech. And then all you do is you memorize those letters. You write those letters down on a piece of paper. You put it up front underneath your thing. Not that you're going to need it underneath your water bottle, but if you need it, it's there. And eventually you won't even need it. But just memorize that first letter And your brain, it takes much less resources to memorize that. And as soon as you remember, oh, intro, I know my intro. I don't need to freaking memorize my intro. I know my intro. Boom. And you'll practice it, and it will be some level of memorized, but it's more just from rehearsal and less from what's the word I'm saying next, right? It's ingrained in you. And the best thing about stories is that you don't need to memorize your story. Now, you do need to remember, you're going to start to learn, and as you become world-class and work with a coach to really discover like how to tell stories like a world-class speaker, there are certain things you can do. You'll start to know how to tell that story, but you're not memorizing every single word. And you might tell that story differently every single time you do it by a little bit because you're not memorizing it. But what does that allow you to do? It allows you to be in your heart, right? And speak directly to the soul or the heart of that other person, and they're connected. They're connected with you. And that's how you become world-class. That's how you impact a room, right? That's how you impact a room. So be in your heart by not memorizing your speech. Please do not memorize your speech. Because what happens, the worst thing is that happens when you forget one line of your speech, it's like you're a robot on stage and you short freaking circuit. It doesn't go well. Trust me, it does not go well. So that's one tip around how to get really comfortable delivering your speech without memorizing your speech word for word. I'm going to give you another tip right now. Another thing you can Google and you can check out, and you can learn more about this. And it's called the Memory Palace. And I'm actually going to read something that here it is. So a memory palace is an imaginary location in your mind where you can store mnemonic images. The most common type of memory palace involves making a journey through a place you know well, like a building or a town. Along that journey, there are specific locations that you always visit in the same order. So check this out. This is going to blow your mind. And this is a badass tool that you can use that will allow you, let me pull my screen back up, that will allow you to really be able to remember things, and it like gets burned in your brain. One thing to know, just so you know, I have a psychology degree. I also have a master's degree in organizational psychology, and I've been geeking out on neuroscience for like the last 15, 20 years and the human condition. It doesn't mean the foremost expert, because I'm not, but I know more than the average person. So every once in a while, I'll drop in some psychology, some science, and I don't always have all the exact scientific data to back it up. Just know that the stuff works because I've been on stages hundreds and hundreds of times, and I know that it works. So this memory palace, the reason why it's so powerful is where I'm going to give you some anecdotal psychology, your own research if you want to get back data. It's not going to make a difference what I'm teaching you, though. I'm here to say, though, is our memory, our brain remembers images more so than it remembers words. I'm going to say that again. It remembers images more so than it remembers words. That's why it's so important to remember that we need to create an optimal learning environment. And one of the ways we do that is through storytelling. One of the ways we do that is through creating imagery in the minds of our audience, right? But we also want to do it in our own minds because it helps us remember our speech. So let me break this down, the memory palace, and I'll just have you Google it if you want to learn a little bit more about it, because it's a powerful tool. All right. So what I did one time is I created this memory palace of me walking into my house. So again, you want to choose a path that you normally would take, whether it's walking through your house or down a path that you go jogging on every single day, or a lot, and you have this burned into your mind. Or maybe it's if you have a job right now, maybe it's your path when you drive to the gym. Or if you're already speaking out there and you're a professional speaker, maybe it's not driving to the office, which is what I meant to say a second ago. Maybe it's driving to the gym where you're going to go and work out, or to go play pickleball, my new favorite sport. Oh my goodness, geek out on pickleball. So pick your path. Mine is going into my house. And I wanted to deliver a 15-minute version and a 30-minute version of my keynote speech. It's kind of like a teaser into my keynote speech called Reigniting Your Human Spirit. And my speech isn't the whole speech, the one that I did 15 and 30 minutes. It's just an intro, a story, and my top 3 tips, kind of like the example I just gave when I talked about mnemonic devices. So I walk up to my house, and the first thing that I notice is this big clown welcomes me. I walk up, and I'm like, okay, I need to humor the audience. I'm going to humor them. I'm going to tell them a joke, right? I have this thing that I do in the beginning that has them all laugh, and it's part of my speech. And then as I walk up the steps to my house, there are these acknowledgements, these plaques on the wall that are like bouncing off the wall. And it's important. You'll notice a clown, this big outlandish clown, and then these plaques bounce, like jumping off the wall at me. As you create your story on your path, you choose things that are not only things that will remind you of what it is that you want to do. The clown reminded me of a joke. Notice how in the mnemonic device, I use the letter D for donkey, or I could have used the letter J for joke, or H for humor, which I've done as well. But in this case, I use a person. I use an actual clown. And it's important to make it stick in your brain. You want it to be as outlandish as possible. So get crazy with what these are. Bright, vivid colors. Our brain remembers these things more so than stale, boring, vanilla types of things. So outlandish clown, boom, humor the audience. As soon as I walk up, A for acknowledgement. This is my mnemonic device as well. But I've got these plaques that jump out at me as I walk up, and they're plaques, and it reminds me I need to acknowledge the host. I'm going to acknowledge the host. And then right when I go to the front door, there's this big neon pink sign that is in the shape of a question mark. And that reminds me, Q for question. Again, HAQ is my mnemonic device that I use for this particular speech when I do it that way. But when I do the memory palace, I've got the clown, I've got the plaques, right, that jump out that remind me to acknowledge. And then I've got the big question on the front door, and that reminds me to ask them a question, right? I have these few questions that I ask to engage the audience. And of course, I'm speaking to their pain as well to make sure that they know that I'm there to help them with their pain. And as soon as I open the door, Morpheus from the Matrix opens the door, and he greets me at the door. If you don't know Morpheus from Matrix, watch the movie. It's an amazing movie. And it reminds me to share a thought-provoking quote that I share from that movie where he says, we're all prisoners of our own mind, right? And my questions led to that statement. I won't go into my whole speech right now, but look at some of my other YouTube videos and you'll probably see what I'm talking about. And Morpheus is holding the hand of this little child. And that reminds me to talk about something I talk about in my speech called childlike confidence, or little kid confidence, right? So this whole imagery is happening. And then I walk up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs, I get greeted by, let's see, HAQ. What was the thing at the top of the stairs? I haven't done this in a while. The top of the stairs, there's this big old Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid person that has like, you gotta be, I'm dating myself, but the big crazy commercials with the Kool-Aid. And I'm trying to remember what that one, I don't actually remember what that one reminds me of. It's been a long time since I've done this, right? So you got to do it a few times, but they lead me in. And I start going down the hallway, and it leads me through the whole entire rest of my speech, right? So if you try this out, right, you're going to create imagery that stands out in your brain, that burns a hole in your brain, so that as you do this speech, you don't have to memorize anything, because you're just walking into your house. And I'm like, boom, I've got the clown. I'm like, all right, I'm telling my joke. I walk up the stairs, boom, acknowledgement. Go up to the front of the door, and I've got this big question mark, and boom, I know I've got to ask my questions. And then Morpheus leads me right into that conversation. So this whole thing, this whole speech is driven by images in your brain. It's called the memory palace. It works like a charm. Again, you have to practice it so you do remember it. But once you remember it, it's like so easy. It takes no mental capacity, very, very little mental capacity. And now all your mental capacity is moved down into your heart space. And now you're able to speak from the heart because you're not having to access brain cells to be able to go and remember what you're trying to say. So hopefully those 2 tips are going to rock your world and allow you to really get more and more comfortable on stage without memorizing your speech. You do not want to memorize your speech. So if you like this, like it, share it, drop some, share this with people that you know should be part of this community, and also hit the bell so that you get more notifications of other speech or different videos that I'm going to be delivering on how you can become a world-class speaker. And definitely join the Speaker Posse over at speakerposse.com, which is a free Facebook group. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And until then, remember to think big,